Uh, John, 19, he, him.
Okay, what do you disagree with on the board?
I disagree with the pro-choice stuff, and to a lesser extent the trans stuff, but I can't really justify that.
Okay, why do you disagree with pro-choice?
I believe that all people have intrinsic dignity as human beings, and that bodily autonomy does not extend to limitless violence.
Okay, so I don't. Okay, so. Okay. Right. So why I am pro-choice is because until a fetus or a baby develops sentience, they do not meet the qualifications to meet the category of personhood, which means that I really don't care.
Are fruit flies people, as they're also sentient?
No.
But they're sentient.
Yeah,
that was your criteria.
Yeah, but the key word would be human beings. So no.
Why is, if we're using qualia to justify moral worth, why is human qualia the only qualia that justifies moral value?
Why is human qualities the only thing that justifies moral value?
Having a human subjective experience. Why is that the only one with moral value? That's what we're using to determine moral value.
Because they're the only ones with consideration, with they're the only ones with the sentience that can actually interact with one another, and then that can like cooperate and can do all of these sorts of things. And also they're the human being. That's like I'm not saying that the fetus, the zygote, embryo, whatever word you want to use, I'm not saying it's not a human being, but I'm saying until it gets sentience at 24 weeks, I don't care.
But like, why specifically does a 24 or 26 week fetus have moral value in its qualia as opposed to like a dog or a fruit fly, who are also equally sentient? Like, is it just the degree to which they can interact with it?
Because they are not human beings.
But why is that integral to moral value if human beingness isn't like...
Because it doesn't meet the qualifications to achieve personhood.
I'm aware your qualifications for personhood is subjective sensory experience and human being, but why are those your criteria?
Because why else? Because we don't give that to anything else, and like we don't give that to trees. Trees are aware of what like they're like alive in some sense. I don't care if somebody cuts one down. So if it doesn't have sentience, then I don't care. It doesn't meet the qualifications to have personhood, so I don't care.
But you also don't care about like equally sentient fruit flies, right?
Yes, because they are not human beings. That's the 4th time I've said that to you now.
Okay, but you need to justify that. Like, if human beings don't have essential moral value, and it's based off of a cognitive benchmark, but that cognitive benchmark's not applied consistently in any other area, why only have that cognitive benchmark and human moral and humanity? Like, why are those the two?
Why are those the two what?
Why are those the two criteria for personhood or moral consideration? Because like a pig is more cognitively advanced than a neonate. Like,
sure, but I can't believe I'm about to say this to you a 5th time. They're not human beings. I don't know why you keep bringing up other animals. We're talking about human beings, and we're talking about sentience, and we're talking about personhood. A fetus does not have personhood because it does not meet the 7 criteria for achieving personhood. The main one being is that it is not sentient. It does not have the capacity to be aware of its surroundings, to know where it is or what it is, to know what's going on around it. It possesses none of this. So before 24 weeks, I simply do not care. And after 24 weeks, there are 2 forms of non-lethal abortion where the baby is taken out and it's put into an incubator. Either way, the person is no longer pregnant.
I fully acknowledge, and I don't think I've contradicted you. I agree with you that what you've said as your criteria for personhood is sentience and humanity. But if you're not essential in humanity and you're not essential in sentience, what about their overlap gives them a special quality?
have literally no idea what that question means.
If sentience doesn't matter in itself, and humanity doesn't matter in itself, why does the intersection of humanity and sentience matter?
Well, I'm not saying that they don't matter. I'm saying that the fetus does not possess them.
I agree with you that pre-24 weeks or some point a fetus is not conscious. But I'm asking, why is the criteria for personhood, specifically humanity and sentience, if neither of those categories in themselves have moral value?
It's nothing to do with moral value. It's absolutely nothing to do with moral value.
Personhood is an ethical concept.
I can't remember the fucking... No, it was characteristics of it, wasn't it? Yeah, there we go. Okay, essential characteristics of the human species. That is not the list. I cannot find the fucking source that I was looking for. Jesus Christ. So the 8 characteristics of personhood are embodiment, network of beliefs, rationality, social relationships, language, reflection, autonomy, and rights. A fetus possesses literally none of them. None. Literally none.
If a neonate was abandoned in a dumpster and they didn't have any social relations, would it be okay to unalive them? That is a very arbitrary...
If a what?
Personhood. If a neonate, a newborn baby, human baby, no social relationships, is abandoned in a dumpster, is it morally all right to unalive them?
No.
They don't have social relationships.
No, because they are sentient.
But that's not the criteria for personhood you just listed.
Yes,
or they're not even really rational either. Like,
one of the things that I listed was autonomy, was reflection, was embodiment. A newborn is not safe. A newborn baby has embodiment. They embody their own body. They have autonomy. They have their own bodily autonomy. Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
And
they don't have the right.
And they have. Yes, they absolutely do. And they also absolutely have rights. Shush. And they also have rights. So that is why killing a newborn baby is wrong, because it has already been born and it has achieved personhood. And it has been given rights and all of these things. That's why that's wrong.
Can an infant consent to anything?
Can an infant consent to anything? No.
Okay, so then they obviously don't have autonomy. They don't have self-rule.
Well, they don't have self-rule, but they do have the bodily autonomy in the sense where if you do harm to them, that is a crime.
Well, that is just protecting.
In the same way as that your bodily autonomy rights prevents somebody else from punching you in the face. That is like it is your bodily autonomy rights that makes that illegal. It's not the fact that like it's just not a nice thing to do. It's your bodily autonomy rights. So if a fetus or if a newborn baby has bodily autonomy, then doing harm to it would be the illegal bit. And we already agree that is illegal.
I agree with you, it's illegal, but that's not the reason why. Do you agree that like vaccinating someone against their will is a violation of their bodily autonomy, even if it's doing the opposite of harm them?
Vaccinating somebody against their will? What I mean, like fucking holding them down and forcing them?
Yeah, just not doing it without their consent, or even just lying about what they're getting injected with. Like that would also be a violation of autonomy.
That would be a violation. However, I would just like to point out that this is a massive and colossal pivot, and we are no longer talking about abortion anymore. So I don't know why you're pivoting.
Well, the reason you gave for your support of abortion is you don't consider non-sentient human beings people. So we're discussing the criteria of personhood, right?
Sure.
And the fact that you're not really consistent in your personhood thing and you looked it up kind of shows flaws in this, like...
I'm sorry, I looked it up because I didn't know the 8 characteristics of personhood off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm very fucking sorry that I'm not that level of fucking autistic. Maybe I haven't just fucking achieved it yet, but I don't know them off the top of my head, so I had to refresh my memory. Would it not be better that I give you the most accurate information possible rather than me not remembering something correctly and then giving you bad information? I'm sorry if that's the type of person that you want to talk to, but this is not the live where you go to find someone like that.
Well, if you're trying to justify your position, you should know your position, and you should know why your position is right, not just appeal to like a random source.
I do know why my position is correct. I was giving you the most accurate information possible rather than just me trying to remember it from memory. I was telling you what it was rather than just giving you my understanding of it or what I can remember of it. Because then if I left out 1 or 2 of the points, then it's not the most accurate information that I'm giving you or to the audience.
Well, what ethical system...
I don't know why you're fixated on the fact that I looked something up to make sure that I'm as accurate as possible. I don't know why. Since when is that a bad thing?
Well, it's not a thing of science, but I'll move past that. Like, what ethical system was that source using?
What ethical system? It's the characteristics of what makes a person, of what makes a person. So it excludes all of the other sentient creatures on this planet, and so we don't give them human rights.
But it also would exclude neonates, and it also is not really an ethical system in itself, because there's a lot of different personhood definitions. Like, why is that specific?
Well, because if you don't possess all of the 8 characteristics of personhood, then you might as well assign human rights to my cat. We're not about to do that.
Well, I would think that there's essential value to being a human being and of a rational kind.
But yes, absolutely, and it's also very exclusive. And if you don't meet the criteria to being a person, then you're excluded from the group. It's as simple as that.
But your criteria excluded people who are human beings. Like, if I'm in a coma for like 2 weeks and I can't make decisions for myself, I have no bodily autonomy, am I no longer a person?
No, you would still be a person because you once possessed it. You have now lost that ability, but a fetus has never gained that ability.
Nor has an infant.
They might get it if you kind of leave it be, but if that's what you're going to go with, then you're also saying that it is morally ethical to give a 5-year-old alcohol because they will be 18.
Well, that wasn't the argument I'm making, but like an infant never made a decision for themselves. You agree they can't consent, right?
If a fetus if a fetus does not have all of the qualifications of personhood, if it is not sentient, then we are going to judge it on what it is now, not what it will be.
I agree with you. We should value the ethical value of entities by what they are currently and what is their nature. But I'm saying specific criteria was absurd.
What criteria was absurd? If you take issue with the study, with the source, with the list of characteristics of personhood, I mean, like, that's on you. That's not on me.
I did positively disagree. I said that
it's evident. If you want to, fine. If you want to include into the category of personhood of human beings, if you want to bring fucking pigs and birds and my cat and the fucking donkey that you rode in here on, then you can absolutely do that, my dude. But the point is, like, that's not what the rest of us are doing.
Is ethics just what people agree to?
Of course it is.
So then there's no truth to it. Every position would be equally correct because it's just a matter of opinion.
No, not necessarily, because that's how democracy works. A bunch of people get together and they argue out about what should be ethical and what isn't, what should be moral and what isn't, and they form a society. And
so you would say, like, if Uganda currently right now says that homosexuals are reprobates and have no ethical value and they should be unalived, just because that's the majority of what.
Well, yeah. So I think that that's wrong, but they might think that it's right.
And there's no symmetry breaker between your opinions.
Right, but there is there is, because you can kind of go down the route of like what is the most kind of I mean, like what you base your morals on. Do you kind of favor harm reduction? Do you favor kind of mob rule? All of these other things. I do, though. I have to point out. I would be remiss if I did not point out. We have now pivoted so hard that we are no longer talking about abortion and we are talking about human rights. Can we get back to abortion?
We came from abortion because we were discussing personhood, and we're talking about the criteria of personhood. This is very cogent and direct. We're talking about just like, why are people ethically valued?
Well, it's not, because you brought up the people in fucking Uganda.
As just trying to understand if you are a true moral relativist or a motivist, or you have a moral framework.
Right. What does my moral framework have to do with this conversation? You can either debate with the points that I'm raising, or you can't. You don't need to delve into my moral framework and how I arrive at a moral conclusion. You don't need to do that.
We're discussing one of the conclusions you have, right? Like, that is what we're discussing. And if this is a product of your ethical system, I should know what your ethical system is, right? In order to engage with it.
You need to know that it's a position that I hold. You don't need to know what my moral or ethical conclusion is. In the same way as that I don't need to know what your moral or ethical conclusion is in order to debate against you, because you'll notice that I haven't asked you a single question on that line.
I mean, you probably should, because that's just kind of where we get.
I mean, I don't need to.
You don't need to know why things are right or wrong to say if something's right or wrong. I don't
need to know why you think something is right or wrong in order to debate the point.
I agree with you. You could just defend your position positively, but you can't just say this is my position and not give a justification.
Right, but I mean, you haven't even laid out why you are pro life. You've said that you are, and you've tried to argue against some of the things that I've said, but you haven't actually given me a coherent reason as to why you are pro life.
I told you my reasons. I believe in universal human personhood. I believe everyone who is of a rational form has innate moral value, and I believe that bodily autonomy should be restricted by the principle of double effect.
Right. Okay. So what about just like consent?
I don't think just because something is a violation of your consent, you necessarily are justified for limitless violence.
Well, then you have no idea how consent works. You have literally no idea, and I hope that women stay the fuck away from you.
If you grab my hair, do I have a right to unalive you immediately just because you're grabbing my hair?
No.
So there's a proportionality of self-defense.
I'm sorry. Do you honestly think that? Do you honestly think that you just did something there? Do you honestly think that that was a point? Do you honestly think that that was a gotcha? Do you honestly think that somebody pulling on your hair because you're a bitch is in any way fucking comparable to what a woman's body goes through when they have a fetus in them?
I'm not equivocating. Obviously one is more severe, but I'm saying that just a violation of consent in itself is not a justification for limitless violence.
So you do think that that was a good point that you made, or you don't think that that was a good point that you made?
I think it was a point in response to the notion that violations of consent necessarily violate limitless violence. That was what you asserted. Like, what is your degree of proportionality that you believe in?
Because if something... Oh my god, okay. If something is in violation... Right, okay. So, if you... Do you think that consent to sex is consent to pregnancy?
No.
Right. So if you do not consent to the pregnancy, then what would be the justified way of rectifying and correcting your consent?
It's the negative function. Like, obviously, you can enforce anything. Like, someone could stop consenting to having kidney function and want to unalive themselves. but we have the right to stop them from doing that because it's an act of violence.
I'm just going to ask you the exact same question again.
If you wanted to control that specific, if you had a desire to do that specific thing to end that relationship, violence would be the solution.
I'm just going to ask you the same question again.
I gave you a straight yes.
No, until you start answering the question that I actually asked you, I'm just going to ask you the same question again.
Unaliving the child.
If a woman is pregnant and she does not consent to being pregnant, then what is the method of correcting her consent? That is the question I have asked you. Now answer it.
And the pregnancy, that is just tautological. Just like if I wanted to end my kidney function, I would end my life. Like that is just what would be.
I'm gonna give you one last chance to answer this very direct, very easy question. If a woman is pregnant and she does not consent to the pregnancy, then what is the method that we would use to correct that consent issue?
Unaliving the child.
Wonderful. You finally got there. So I'm sorry?
I said that 3 times before.
Well, no, you didn't, because you like went on a whole fucking diatribe about like fucking it's not proportional and all this other bullshit. So, okay. So if she does not consent to the pregnancy and the only rational way of reconciling her consent is to unalive the baby, then why are you pro-life?
Because I think that violence of that degree needs to be proportional.
Right.
Like
no,
if someone
so the correct answer, and it's one that I already alluded to earlier, is that you don't care or don't fully understand consent, and I think that women should stay the fuck away from you.
I do not think that any violation of consent justifies unaliving someone. That is what I said, and you even agreed to that.
No, if something is taking up your bodily resources, if something is engaging in a parasitic relationship with you, and you do not consent to it, then the only rational answer is to remove it.
So can conjoined twins murder each other?
No, because they are two separate sentient beings.
Oh, but they're two separate sentient beings who have shared organs on which they rely on. And but
they are two separate sentient beings. I don't know why this is so difficult for you. I do not know why this is so difficult for you. I have mentioned sentience as the thing that I have mentioned sentience as the thing that that is the cornerstone for why I am pro choice. And now you are bringing up a whataboutism argument or example of two sentient beings. Why would you think that I would agree with you? Why would you think that I would answer you in any way that even resembles? Yeah, one can unalive the other, or any such kind of an answer. Why do you think that I was going to give you any kind of an answer like that when I have said that sentience is the most important thing as to why I am pro-choice? Why do you think that?
You just oscillated to bodily autonomy arguments. You just demonstrated the bodily integrity position, which is different than the sentience.
Listen, I can explain it for you. I can't understand it for you. I have mentioned sentience I don't know how many times in the last 24 minutes exactly. I have no idea how many more times I have to say it.
But you would agree that sentience is not really cogent to whether or not that you need to refrain from violence leading to a continuation of relationship with your bodily resources.
I would agree that anything that is impeding or that is negatively impacting your consent and or your bodily autonomy, whatever you need to do to rectify that problem, that's up to you.
So then you would agree.
If it is before 24 weeks, yeetus the fetus, and if it is after 24 weeks, there are two non-lethal forms of abortion that can and should be done. It's as simple as that. Okay. That is my position.
let's say after 24 weeks there is not a non-lethal way to end the abortion. Would you?
Well, no,
support?
there's two of them. So I'm not going to
But
do this.
if
I'm not going.
hypothetically-
Shush. I'm not going to do this. This hypothetical pie in the sky. Oh yeah. Well, what if there isn't a way of doing it, or what if there is? There is though. So I don't care about your whataboutisms.
That's not even a whataboutism. That's hypothetical. Specifically to test your statements.
But it's a stupid hypothetical because the world that we live in, there are two methods of doing this where it is non-lethal. I don't like. What the fuck are we doing? You're giving me a hypothetical question, and you're posing a hypothetical question that is contradictory to the world that we live in. What if we don't have a non-lethal way of doing it? What if we haven't figured out how to live past 40? We can have that sort of a conversation if you want to, but it's fucking stupid because we have figured out how to live past 40, and we have figured out two methods of a non-lethal form of abortion. So I don't care about your hypotheticals.
It is directly cogent to whether your position is actually based off of bodily integrity or sentience, because you are oscillating between the two in contradicting ways. Just like it would be relevant, like the hypothetical about the violinist is cogent to the pro-life position. Like, it is just trying to test what is your actual ethical position. What is the actual ethical principle that justifies it right as right?
Right, and now you're not even straw manning. You're putting an argument in my mouth that I didn't even make. I didn't make the fucking violinist argument. So why are you bringing it up?
I'm saying that it's a hypothetical that would be relevant. That is against my position.
Yeah, but it's not a hypothetical that I brought up. So can you engage with the arguments that I'm bringing up rather than just bringing in some other ones that maybe you or one of your stupid friends have heard?
It's not even. You're just making statements, and you're just refusing to engage with any argumentation on it.
I am absolutely not refusing to engage with any arguments that you are bringing up. The point is, and the problem that we seem to be having, is that you don't have your listening ears on, and you are not responding to an argument that I am actually making. You, less than 30 seconds ago, brought up the violinist argument. I did not make such an argument. So why are you bringing it up? And why are you saying that it's a hypothetical, good, bad, or indifferent? It doesn't matter. I didn't bring it up.
You didn't bring it up. You brought up that hypothetical shouldn't be considered. I just said that I gave that as an example to why hypotheticals are valuable.
But I didn't bring it up. I don't need to bring up the fucking violinist argument. And hypotheticals, sure, they can be valuable and they can be important when they are relevant. But you bringing up a whataboutism on whether or not we have our just imagine maybe we haven't figured out how to do a non-lethal abortion, but we have. So what's the point in even talking? What's the point in even going down that particular train of thought? It's pointless. It's stupid. We figured it out. We don't need to think about what if.
Let's not even do hypothetically. Let's say currently right now there are many places in the world, in the third world from Palestine to Niger, who don't have NICUs where they can take care of the baby. What if there was not that resource available and a non-lethal abortion would lead to the death of the child post-sentience? Would you support abortion in that scenario?
Post-sentience, I mean, we should obviously kind of try and do the non-lethal form of abortion, but I mean, if it's in violation of their bodily autonomy or in their consent, then yes, I would.
See, was that hard? That just explained your position. So, do you think that there's any limits on how we should enforce bodily integrity?
Are there limits to it? Yeah. Okay,
so what are those limits?
Well, I mean, like my right to swing my fist ends at your face. I mean, like that would be a limit of your freedom of your bodily autonomy to move in a way that you want to. But it's where your rights it's where your rights ends where my rights begin. So. That would be that would be a limit of them.
So if the expression of rights negatively impacts another person, it's wrong. To a similar or lesser degree than they're currently affecting you.
Ask me that again, but can you ask it in a straightforward fucking way?
If someone is violating someone's bodily integrity, their violation can only be met with a violation of a similar or less than way to end that violation.
So when I asked you to ask that question in a straightforward way, did you just not hear me, or like what exactly are you asking me? What's the question that you're asking me?
So for a proportional act of self-defense, where someone tried to maintain their bodily integrity and their consent, the amount of violence you're allowed to do in that act of self-defense should be proportional to the amount of violence being done on you.
Not even necessarily. If somebody is attacking you, right? So if somebody is, mugging you, or if if somebody punches you in self-defense, if you hit them back and you end up unaliving them, whether it was intentional or unintentional, I mean, like that's an absolutely, like, that's a way of enforcing self-defense. It doesn't have to be like equal or opposite to or greater than or lesser than or anything else. It is like...
But any violation alone wouldn't justify that, right? Like, what is that criteria? Is it like legitimate lethal threats? Is it... What is it?
Is it pro what?
I didn't say pro anything. Like, is it based off of a lethal threat being a warrant for another lethal act? Or is it just...
It can be, it doesn't always have to be. This is so fucking painful. This is so painful. I feel like I'm arguing with fucking ChatGPT. I mean, it's just... These NPC fucking way of talking is just ridiculous. You are just incapable of talking in a straightforward manner and in asking straightforward, like, blatant and honest questions. This, I mean, like, it's just insane. It's not as if I haven't given you numerous examples. I've been doing it the whole fucking stream, but like, this is just it's just mind-boggling. Like, how you talk is not human.
Okay. Why does this...
Because you're asking me, is the level of lethal force that is acted onto you, does that mean that it is like an equal and opposite reaction of lethal force that can be enacted onto someone? Nobody fucking talks like that, dude. Nobody talks like that. Nobody talks like that.
Yeah, you could say that, but that's just not true.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Literally nobody talks like that. Nobody talks like that. You would fill in the values for it. So you would say, right, rather than going on that whole fucking diatribe about all of that sort of shit, you would say, hey, what if, if somebody is, assaulting you, or if somebody punches you in the head, are you morally justified in fucking hitting them back? Do you have any idea how, like, do you see the difference in the two statements? Yours and mine. Do you see the difference? So, okay. So answer why the question. Do you see the difference? That's a yes or a no.
You did an accentuated example.
So can you start talking like a human being?
Okay. So why is it okay for a mother to unalive her post-sentient fetus in, like, Mali or Niger?
Because it violates her consent.
Okay, but it's not okay for a conjoined twin to unalive another conjoined twin, even if they're violating each other's bodily consent.
No, because they have all of the qualities and all of the attributes of personhood.
So a fetus post 24 weeks does not fit your criteria of personhood, and that's why it's okay to unalive.
It fits some of the criteria of personhood, but not all of them.
What does...
If you are talking about conjoined twins, you are talking about two kind of, like, grown people. You are talking about two sentient people. Because when you are talking about is it right for one to unalive the other, then you will be talking about a situation in which a surgery is being done in order to try and separate the two twins, and they would only be able to electively volunteer for that surgery if they were 18 plus. So and at 18 they would fit every single one of the criteria of personhood. So that's why that's not okay in one scenario, but it is in the other, because they don't hit all of the criteria of personhood.
Okay, so is a 26-year-old, 26-month-old born infant, and they are alive, are they a person?
They would fit the majority of the characteristics of personhood, yes.
But are they a person?
Yes. That's what I just said. They would fit the majority of the characteristics. No, they are not fully. Do you know what the majority means?
This is.
Do you know what the majority means?
More than 50%.
Right. So then, why would you ask me when I have just said that they fit the majority of the characteristics? Why would you then ask me, do they fit all of the character, or are they fully?
Because you just said
person.
They are a person. Like you just said, like a 26-year-old.
No, I didn't say that they are a person. I said that they fit the majority of the characteristics of personhood. And then you asked me, are they fully a person? You wouldn't have asked me that if you understood the answer that I gave you. And I don't understand why you didn't get it, because I said it in very simple and plain fucking English.
Okay, so it's okay to unalive a 26-week fetus because they don't fit all the criteria for personhood, but it's not okay to unalive a 26-week-old infant but they also don't fit all the criteria for personhood.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they have been born and they have entered into the parents have entered into the social contract of where they have agreed to raise the child up until the age of 18. That's what being born does.
Do you think that just because you give birth, you necessarily consent to taking care of that child?
You have agreed to the social contract, yes.
When did they give enthusiastic consent for that? When did they sign up on? When did they?
When they carried the child to term.
What if they just didn't have access to abortion?
Do you have any idea how consent works? Do you know what consent means? I do.
And that's why.
So when I said when they carry the child to term, therefore they consent to carry the child to term, why would you then ask me about consent again?
How is just giving birth to
I swear to fucking Christ, this is literally like arguing with a brick wall that can understand one, maybe two of the words that I am saying to them. You have now asked me when did they agree? Okay. Oh my fucking God. You asked me, what is the difference between a 26-year-old fetus and a 26-week-old fucking newborn? And the difference is that they have given birth, they have carried the child to term. Therefore, they consented to carrying the child to term, which means that they enter into a social contract whereby they agree to raise the child from newborn until 18 years of age, and they are responsible for them from birth until 18. That's it. Do you finally fucking get it now?
You agree with me that it's stupid to say that sex is consent to pregnancy,
yes or
right?
no? Yes or no? Do you finally get it now?
I understand that's a statement you made.
Yes or no? Do you finally get it now?
No, I do not. I don't understand how giving birth to someone, it follows that you have to take care of that person.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't do this. Again, as I said earlier, I can explain it for you. I can't understand it for you. If you cannot understand the difference between those two things, I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. I mean, that was like physically, I probably woke up my fucking housemate, so yeah, he's gonna be fucking mad at me now. I feel like I lost brain cells during that fucking conversation. That was literally excruciating. That was excruciating.